Okay, hello and good morning, everyone. Welcome to JFD Traders Espresso with me, Darius Anucauskas. Today's the 23rd of October 2019, so welcome everyone. Welcome to this Wednesday's morning session where we're going to have a quick look at the markets, a few of the charts, the usual stuff. But before we do that, as always, let's quickly have a read through our risk disclaimers. So, the content we produce does not constitute investment advice or investment recommendation, should not be considered as such, and does not in any way constitute an invitation to acquire any financial instrument or product. As always, a few seconds for you to read the rest, and we can continue. Also, just a quick mentioning of our JFD YouTube channel here, to which you can always subscribe to in order not to miss any of our upcoming videos. And of course, our JFD Bank website, and specifically our JFD Bank research page, which we update on a daily basis, and we throw out different technical analysis, fundamental analysis. So yeah, feel free to visit us here and check us out. Right. For now, guys, let's jump into the charts. Now, the first one I want to touch on here is gold, and I haven't looked at gold for well, since Monday basically. So, but what I was saying on Monday, and basically I was telling you guys to keep an eye on this, of course, on this downside moving channel. But at the same time, keep an eye on this little range here inside this channel, because this little range is roughly here between the 1475 and the 1500 level. And what I was saying as well, that I'm quite afraid that this commodity, this precious metal, could end up just moving sideways for a while and just continuing like without any clear direction. And then eventually, let's say if it travels all the way here, hits the upper side of the falling channel, and then breaks it and pushes nicely to the upside. So for now, again, of course, and as long as it remains inside this, falling channel, and as long as it respects the upper bound, especially the upper bound of this formation, we will continue aiming to the downside. The only thing is that for us to get excited about slightly lower levels, ideally we would like to see a drop below the 1475 level first, and only then we could aim for lower areas. But as you can see by the price action right now, I mean, it could be a little bit tricky even with the downside. So that's why for now we're just keeping an eye on it. We're not doing anything. We're going to keep a close eye on this potential idea that I've just mentioned, that we may see the commodity kind of moving sideways here, and if it hits the upper bound of the falling channel, then we'll take it from there, see what it wants to do after. If it wants to break it, then yep, that's wonderful, good news for the buyers. A push above the psychological 1500 level could in a way do the trick here, and for more bulls. But as previously I've mentioned, ideally we would like to see a push above the 1520 zone before we could get excited about further moves higher. And in terms of the downside, I'll repeat myself, a drop below the 1475 could in a way open the path towards the 1459 area, roughly around here, roughly near the low of the 1st of October. But if that fails to withhold, then yep, further declines could be possible. But until then, we cannot really do anything with this one until it remains in this territory. Bitcoin. I haven't looked at Bitcoin for quite a while now, and basically an interesting picture happening here. So looking at the daily chart, yes, you can see that after we had our nice beautiful run here to the upside in July to this year, the crypto started, well, it continues to drift lower, basically trading below this little kind of tentative, medium-term tentative downside resistance line, taken from the high of that 26th of June here. Um, but overall picture is not really kind of very positive one, because looking at this daily chart, we can see that the crypto is below its 200-day EMA, and also even below the 21 EMA. So in a way, this type of activity here that we're seeing, it could be more of a bearish one, because also this little kind of move sideways, I would call it even, this little move sideways could in a way bring another round of selling here, especially if we see this little drop here below the short-term upside support line taken from the low of the 30th of September. And again, we've seen such patterns, such formations before, where we had a slide, then an instrument starts moving sideways a little bit here, and this normally leads to a continuation move in the prevailing trend. So or in other words, somebody could say maybe this is a nice bearish flag here, but again, it's not a clear one, not a very ideal one. Or even a pennant, or even a flag, we cannot really say. But the fact that it's a nice sideways action here before a possible move lower, then yes, we could see something like this happening. For now, guys, again, it's as long as it remains above this short-term upside line, we cannot really talk about any moves lower. And probably for us to get a little bit more excited with the downside, well, ideally a drop below this level here, right near the 7,733 zone, could do the trick. And by the way, I'm looking at the Bitfinex exchange here, so that's why, guys, for now, yes, it is quite tricky, especially looking at the daily chart here. The tricky part is, of course, for the buyers, because if such patterns, we've seen such patterns before, and these tend to kind of break in the direction of the prevailing trend. So in this situation, to the downside. But again, just to be on the safe side a little bit, wait for a drop below the 7,733 territory, roughly around here. This way, the crypto would confirm a forthcoming lower low, and we could target slightly lower areas. Initially, of course, we'll aim for this little area right here near the 7,450-55 zone, but a little bit below that, we do have another potential area of support, and that's near these psychological 7,000 levels. So we'll keep an eye on these levels first, but again, we need that confirmation break first. In terms of the upside, looking at this daily chart even, ideally, in order to kind of, let's say, shift our views to the upside a little bit, ideally a push above the 8,370-71 zone could maybe open the path towards slightly higher levels. We could then maybe target this little high that we saw here on the 11th of October, and that's around the 8,815. But if that fails to hold, then yep, it could push a little bit higher. But the only thing is, like I said, keep your eyes on this medium-term downside resistance line taken from the high of the 26th of June. So that's why, guys, for now, yep, keep your eyes on this one. Quite interesting developments. A lot of analysts are kind of predicting maybe a nice push higher, but again, take it a bit with a pinch of salt, and have your own head on your shoulders, guys. Jumping into NZDCHF. We can see a nice picture here on the 4-hour chart. I've looked at this one recently, basically, and I was telling you guys to keep a close eye on this upside support line. Basically, I was looking at this one yesterday, to be more precise. This steep upside support line taken from the low of the 16th of October. So it continues to play out nicely. So what I was initially saying, that even if we see a drift lower, as long as this line remains intact, or at least keeps on holding, then we could see another round of buying here, and we could see a move higher. The only thing is, for now, you can see that yes, we did have a nice rebound from it, maybe just overshot it a little bit slightly, but it still rebounded. Yes, there is a good chance we could see this one drifting higher again, but be very careful around here. And ideally, probably we would like to see a nice good push above the 0.6345 zone right around here, guys, and just for that extra confirmation. So again, don't get me wrong, we are quite happy that we are getting a nice rebound from this upside line, but the only problem here right now is this pivot point. So currently the rate is fluctuating just slightly below it. It seems that it's struggling to overcome this pivot point, which is around the 0.6334, roughly around there. So in a way, if we get a push above this, yes, that's wonderful. We'll aim for maybe slightly higher levels, but just to get on the safe side here and to get a little bit more cautious, a nice good push above the 0.6345 could in a way do the trick here for more buyers, and we could start aiming for slightly higher levels. Our ideal target is still here, the 0.64 zone, but there are a bunch of obstacles for this pair to overcome first before it could reach this 0.64 zone. So for now, let's keep it short and simple. If we get a push above the 0.6330 sorry, 0.6345 zone, then yep, we will aim for slightly higher levels, but we'll keep our stop loss in place just in case this suddenly reverses back to the downside and drops below this upside line here. So if it drops below this upside line, then yes, we could start considering slightly lower areas, and this level here, previously I had this level, so it's still kind of playing out nicely. This 0.6328 zone continues to play out nicely because you can see that the 4-hour candles keep on breaking it, but they still cannot close below it. So yeah, we'll keep an eye on this one, but just then for that extra confirmation, maybe just a drop below this this morning's low near the 0.6316 area, roughly around there. A nice good drop below this would confirm a forthcoming lower low, and we could then aim for slightly lower areas again. So guys, for now, keep your eyes on this little territory here. These are our levels. These are our potential breakout points. Until then, we're not doing anything with it. USDCAD. I've talked about this one yesterday, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, yeah, no, I've talked about this one earlier. Basically, what I was saying here, guys, previously, that we may see a bit of correction here. There is a possibility of seeing that, but the only thing is that as long as it remains below this the downside resistance line taken from the high of the 9th of October, then yep, we will continue aiming to the downside. For now, the downside line continues to hold. That's good news for the sellers, but of course, you need to still be very careful because still on the probably more of a shorter term kind of time frame, we are quite over sold here, and in a way we could maybe see a bit of correction, but for now, as long as it remains below this downside line, we can't really talk about any moves higher. So if we do get a break of this this downside line, then could be a nice signal for the buyers here, especially if it travels above this 1.3123 zone, which is the high of yesterday. So a nice push above this level here would also place the rate above its 21 EMA, not to mentioning, of course, the downside line here as well. And then we could target the 1.3166, from which we could, a break of which could make us a little bit even more comfortable with slightly higher levels. So again, there are a bunch of criteria to be met before we could, let's say, examine the upside here. But as long as it remains below this downside line, we will continue targeting lower areas. And don't get me wrong, we're not far already from the psychological 130 level. Of course, before that, we do have some strong areas of support here near the 1.3036 or even the 1.3010. The last one here is marked by the lowest point of July. So keep your eyes on this one, guys. As I said, it's too early to talk about the upside. We would need to see a nice good strong push above this downside resistance line and a push above the yesterday's high near the 1.3123. Until then, we're leaning more towards the downside. GBPJPY. So I've talked about this one recently as well, and I was telling you guys to keep a close eye on some of these potential breakout points. So we got our drop here below the 139.76. So that's good news here for the sellers. Again, good news, but still, they should remain cautious here because we are on shaky grounds, especially with with all with the whole Brexit situation. So this pair, or in general, the pound pairs could move up and down, up and down. Basically, the volatility is increased. So that's why, guys, for now, probably keep it short and simple. If you do get a break here, of course, always have your stop loss in place. So for now, you can see that we did get a break below this 139.76, but the pair is now correcting back up. As if it remains below this level, the 139.76, 75 zone, then we could see another round of selling where we could potentially target the 137.90 or even the 137 zone. So we'll keep it short and simple. We'll target these levels. The last one that I've mentioned could also coincide with the 100 EMA on the 4-hour chart. So keep an eye on that one. And for us to get comfortable with the upside, well, ideally we would like to see a push above the high of last week near the 141.50, and then we'll aim for higher levels. Until then, kind of we cannot really talk about any upside. It's this level here that we need in order to get comfortable with higher levels. So keep your eyes on this one, guys. But for now, at this point in time, at this current picture, if this level here, the 139.76 level, holds and acts as a good area of resistance, we could see another round of selling. So keep your eyes on this one. And slightly a more interesting picture here on GBPNZD. Now, with this one, what I wanted to quickly show you here, guys, is basically, yes, after we had a nice rally here last week, and of course this week we're seeing this a bit of a slide here. Some could even say maybe it's a bit of a correction. We could say that as well, because we are still trading above this upside support line, tentative of course, but still an upside support line taken from the low of the 30th of July. So in a way, of course, this could continue drifting lower. Something that I really wanted to show you as well is we could be potentially forming here of course, we do have a downside resistance line here, of course, taken from this high, but at the same time, we could be forming something of potential falling wedge formation. Now, again, this is a bit of a tentative idea as well, because in a way, these formations, yes, they sometimes work out nicely, but sometimes, let's say, they continue, if the pair continues to drift lower, it violates the lower side of it and just continues basically to move lower, and kind of maybe sometimes forms a falling channel. But for now, looking at this current picture, yes, it looks like a falling wedge. These patterns tend to break to the upside according to all the technical analysis rules. The only thing is that before kind of examining the upside, we need to see an exit of this pattern. So basically, in other words, we would need to see a break of this upper side of the falling wedge formation, and a push, ideally a push above the high of yesterday, couldn't do the trick for more buyers here, and this would confirm this pattern. But again, until that happens, it really is just an idea. So that's why, guys, for now, basically how you could play this one out is, yes, for now, as long as it remains below this downside resistance line taken from the high of the 16th of October, we could see this one maybe correcting back up, and then if it holds, we could see another round of selling. So in a way, we could ignore this lower side, or in other words, this falling wedge formation. If it pushes above the 2.0265 zone here, then yep, it could be a nice opening kind of gateway here for higher levels. We could then then aim for these levels that we saw here in the end of last week. But until that happens, we cannot really talk about any upside. And to be honest, for now, the pound could be on the weaker side a little bit, and we could see maybe this one drifting a little bit lower. We're not going to drag this one too much to the downside because it's still, like I said, the whole Brexit nonsense is still happening. Let's keep an eye on that one, and all the GBP pairs are mainly headline driven. And the last pair I wanted to quickly touch on here is the Euro USD. So I talked about this potential idea here from the beginning of this week, basically, where I said that we may see a correction. We did get our correction, and if this struggles to push below the 1.1110 zone, we could see a nice rebound and a push back to the upside. Again, for now, we are getting our rebound. That's great news. So let me just clear this chart a little bit. So we are getting our rebound, but ideally now, looking at this picture, ideally we would like to see a push above this 1.1154 that I just marked, and that's basically the high of yesterday. So a nice good push above this could in a way attract more buyers, because until then it would be a little bit difficult. So yes, we are, on one hand, we are having a nice rebound from this 1.1110 zone, but on the other hand, currently today the pair is stuck below its pivot. So for now, I do understand it's just an early morning still, so but keep your eyes on these potential levels. So if we see a drop below the 1.1110, this could lead to further declines, and we'll aim for this upside support line taken from the low of the 1st of October, and then we'll take it from there, because in a way it could hold again, and we could see a nice rebound and a push back to the upside. But if this level here, the 1.1110 zone, holds right now, and we see the rate accelerating above the 1.1154, there could be a chance we could see a test of the high of last week near the 1.1183, a break of which would confirm a forthcoming higher high, and we could then target for slightly higher levels. Still, our main target remains here, the 1.1250. That's what we're going to be aiming for in the near term. If we see a strong push above all these barriers here, but until then, for now, we're keeping a close eye on this 1.1110 zone, because if it continues to hold, that's good news, but we would like to see a nice good push above the 1.1154 zone before examining slightly higher levels. If it gets a drop, if this 1.1110 level drops below, the one breaks, then yep, we will aim for slightly lower areas, but up until this upside support line. So keep your eyes on this one. Okay, guys, I really hope you found it useful. I'll have to wrap it up here. Be very careful today, of course. Like I said, with the pound pairs, the Brexit saga continues. So yeah, guys, I hope you found it useful, and like I said, if you want to join me on later on in my traders tea time, as always, that's 13:15 GMT. We'll have a look at some of these instruments. We'll take a look and see if any of them have moved or did something interesting. But yeah, if you want me to cover some other instruments, please leave a comment after the video is uploaded. I will be happy to pick up on that, and we can take it from there. Thank you very much, guys, and I'll see you later. Bye bye.